and some of the other songs that we've done. But the original cover we never made was going to be the Challenger.
For decades, Axl Rose has been one of rock's most mysterious and unpredictable frontmen. From the explosive chaos of Welcome to the Jungle to the haunting beauty of November Rain, his voice defined an entire generation of music. But through all the fame, controversy, and reinventions, one question has always fascinated fans. Which Guns N' Roses songs does Axl himself cherish the most? Now, at 63 years old, the reclusive rocker is finally breaking his silence, revealing the 10 songs that mean the most to him. And the reasons behind each choice will leave fans stunned. Some of his picks are the anthems that made the band legendary, while others are deep cuts that only die-hard fans truly appreciate. And according to Axl, these songs tell the real story of Guns N' Roses, a story of pain, rebellion, redemption, and pure musical fire. Over the years, Axl has rarely opened up about his personal connection to his own music. But in a recent conversation, he surprised fans by reflecting deeply on his career, calling some songs windows into my soul, and others things I never thought I'd survive. The honesty in his words reveals a side of Axl few have ever seen. Not the angry rock star, but the artist behind the chaos. From the thunderous riffs of Paradise City to the emotional rawness of Estranged, each song carries a memory, a struggle, or a triumph. And some of the tracks he included weren't even major hits. They were songs the band fought to record, songs written during heartbreak, or tracks that captured Axl's true creative essence. So, which songs made his list? What hidden meanings did Axl Rose finally confess after all these years? And why did he say one track still haunts him to this day? Stay tuned, because Axl Rose's personal countdown will change how you hear Guns N' Roses forever. When Axl Rose sat down to reveal his favorite Guns N' Roses songs, he didn't start with the band's biggest hits. He started with the ones that defined who he was before the world knew his name. For Axl, these early songs weren't just tracks on an album. They were reflections of his hunger, rage, and determination to break out of the world he came from. His first choice was Welcome to the Jungle. It's not just a song, Axl said. It's my story. Written shortly after he moved from Indiana to Los Angeles, the song captures the raw shock of arriving in a world that was wild, seductive, and cruel all at once. I remember being broke, lost, and angry, he continued. That song was me telling the city, you won't break me. The iconic scream at the beginning wasn't just theatrics. It was a declaration. That scream came from every door slammed in my face. Next on his list was It's So Easy. Though it sounds like a swaggering anthem of arrogance, Axl explained that the song is layered with irony. We wrote it when everything wasn't easy. We were starving, he laughed. The track's sneering tone masked the frustration of a band struggling to make rent and be taken seriously. People thought it was about confidence. It was really about survival. Axl's third pick surprised even longtime fans, My Michelle. The song, which shocked listeners with its brutally honest lyrics about addiction and loss, was inspired by a close friend's real life. Michelle was someone we all loved, Axl said. Her life wasn't pretty, but she was real. That song was for her, not to embarrass her, but to say, I see you. The vulnerability behind the hard edges of My Michelle shows the empathy that often gets overlooked in Axl's persona. Then came Night Train. To Axl, it represents the spirit of Guns N' Roses before fame, young, wild, and unstoppable. We didn't have money for fancy liquor, he recalled. We had Night Train wine, the cheapest stuff you could get. But when you're with your band, broke and dreaming big, that bottle feels like champagne. The track, driven by Duff McKagan's bass line and Slash's explosive guitar, captured the reckless joy and unity of a band on the rise. That song still takes me right back to the streets, Axl said. Another personal favorite from his early days is Out to Get Me. Axl called it a scream for freedom. Growing up in a strict, abusive household in Indiana, he often felt caged by authority. That song is me saying, "You'll never control me again." It's not about fame or the press. It's about escaping everything that tried to keep me down. The defiance in every lyric and every roar is unmistakably Axl. Through these first songs, it's clear that Axl Rose's connection to Guns N' Roses runs much deeper than fame or record sales. Each track reflects a chapter of his life, the trauma of his childhood, the chaos of his youth, and the unbreakable bond with a band that changed rock forever. What's most surprising is how humble he sounds when talking about them now. Gone is the angry frontman who once lashed out at journalists and critics. In his place is a man who's finally looking back with gratitude and a little disbelief. "We didn't know what we were doing," Axl admitted. "We just wanted to make noise, be honest, and survive. Somehow, that noise became music people still care about." As the conversation continued, Axl revealed that his next few choices were from a very different chapter. Songs born not from hunger and rebellion, but from reflection, heartbreak, and loss. These tracks came later, when fame had already changed everything, and when Axl began to realize that the jungle he'd conquered had its own kind of darkness. Rock, Guns N' Roses, had conquered the world, selling millions of albums and redefining what it meant to be a rock band. But with fame came pressure, isolation, and heartbreak. Emotions that poured into some of Axl's most haunting songs. When asked to continue his list, Axl chose tracks that captured not just his success, but his pain. The first song he mentioned was November Rain. "People think of it as a love song," Axl said quietly. "But to me, it's about loss, the kind that never really leaves." Written years before it was released, Axl had been working on November Rain since the mid-'80s, refining every lyric and piano note. "I kept rewriting it," he said, "because I was trying to understand my own heart." The song's sweeping orchestration and Slash's unforgettable solo made it one of the most iconic rock ballads ever recorded. But to Axl, it was deeply personal. "It's about realizing that even the most beautiful things fade," he said. "And sometimes you have to let go before they destroy you." Next came Don't Cry. Axl smiled when he mentioned it, but not a happy smile. That song was real. It came from something that actually happened. Inspired by a breakup, Don't Cry was written during the band's early days, but didn't see full release until Use Your Illusion, Fang. "I was trying to tell someone that goodbye doesn't have to mean the end of love. Sometimes it's just the start of understanding." The raw emotion in Axl's vocals makes it one of Guns N' Roses' most heartfelt tracks, and one of his most personal. His next choice, Estranged, revealed a darker, more introspective Axl Rose. "That song," he said, "is me trying to deal with the weight of everything. Fame, heartbreak, losing people you love, all of it." At nearly 10 minutes long, Estranged was less a song and more an emotional confession. "I was in a place where I didn't feel connected to anyone," Axl admitted. "Music was the only thing keeping me alive." The music video, often considered the third part of a trilogy with Don't Cry and November Rain, showed Axl adrift, both literally and metaphorically, in a sea of emptiness. "It's about searching for peace," he explained, "and realizing that sometimes you have to save yourself." Another song that made his list was Civil War. Though it's often viewed as a political statement, Axl described it as something much deeper. It's about what happens when people stop listening to each other. In politics, in love, in life. I wrote that thinking about how divided everything felt, even then. His voice turned serious as he reflected. You can't have peace if you can't even have a conversation. Then came one of his most surprising picks. Patience. For many, it's a simple acoustic ballad, but for Axl, it was a reflection of maturity. That song came when we were all breaking apart, he said. Everything was moving too fast. The tours, the fame, the chaos. Patience was me trying to slow down and breathe. The stripped-down sound, recorded with nothing but acoustic guitars and a whistle, was a rare moment of calm amid the storm. It's about learning to wait, Axl said softly, for healing, for love, for peace. As he discussed these songs, Axl's tone shifted from fierce to reflective. There was no arrogance, no anger, just honesty. The man who once seemed untouchable was opening up about his fragility. When I wrote those songs, I didn't know they'd last this long, he said. They were just my way of surviving. I didn't realize they'd become memories for other people, too. By the time the 90s ended, Guns N' Roses had changed. And so had Axl. The chaos of success had taken its toll, and the band that once ruled the world began to fracture. But through it all, Axl's music remained brutally honest, a mirror reflecting his triumphs, his loneliness, and his longing for something real. As he prepared to reveal the final songs on his list, newer tracks and personal favorites that most fans wouldn't expect, one thing was clear. Axl Rose wasn't just revisiting his past. He was finally making peace with it. By the late 1990s, Axl Rose was no longer just a rock star. He was a mystery. Guns N' Roses had imploded. The original members were gone, and fans were left wondering what happened to the man who once ruled the stage. Rumors swirled about his isolation, his perfectionism, and his long-awaited album, Chinese Democracy. But behind the silence, Axl was still writing. And some of those. For Axl, Chinese Democracy wasn't just about politics or rebellion. It was a statement about resilience. Everyone wanted to tell me it couldn't be done. But I had to prove to myself that I could still do it. Next on his list was Better. Fans of the Chinese Democracy era know it as one of the album's strongest tracks, a blend of hard rock, emotional lyrics, and Axl's unmistakable range. That song came from a place of betrayal, he said. Not just in love, in life. People you trust can turn on you fast. But when I wrote Better, it was about trying to move past it without losing yourself. Then came a surprise. There was a time. Axl called it one of the most painful songs I've ever written. The track, layered with emotion and orchestration, captures regret, nostalgia, and the cost of fame. It's about everything I lost, friends, relationships, parts of myself, he said. But it's also about forgiveness. Axl's voice softened as he spoke about another unexpected favorite. Madagascar. Unlike his earlier anthems of rage, this song was steeped in reflection. That one's about rebirth, Axl explained. It's about letting go of the anger that kept me alive for so long. The song samples Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, giving it a sense of spiritual weight. Dr. King's words reminded me that strength doesn't always mean shouting louder. Sometimes it means standing still and facing yourself. Then came one that surprised even die-hard fans. Catcher in the Rye. Axl smiled when the title came up. People don't get that song, he said. It's about disillusionment. Realizing that the world you thought was real might have just been a dream. It's kind of how I felt after Appetite for Destruction blew up. Everyone wanted something from me, but nobody wanted to understand me. As the conversation turned toward his legacy, Axel paused. "You know," he said, "I used to think music was about proving people wrong. Now I see it's about connection. The songs that matter most aren't the biggest hits. They're the ones that kept me alive." He laughed softly when asked if he still listens to his old work. "Sometimes," he said. "When I do, I hear the kid I used to be, angry, loud, trying to fight his way through everything. And then I hear the man I am now, calmer, still passionate, but more grateful." Axel's reflections on his later songs reveal a man who's evolved far beyond the chaos of his youth. Gone is the self-destructive frontman who fueled tabloid headlines. In his place stands an artist who's made peace with his past, his bandmates, and himself. He even spoke warmly about reuniting with Slash and Duff McKagan years later. "We went through hell together," Axel said. "But the music, that's forever. You can't fake that kind of bond." Looking back at his journey, Axel summed it up simply. "Every song I've written is a piece of who I am. Some are scars, some are victories. But together, they tell the truth. And that's all I ever wanted, to tell the truth." As he revealed his final choices, songs that span his entire life, from the fiery Appetite days to the reflective Chinese democracy era, it became clear that Axl Rose's story isn't just about rebellion or fame. It's about endurance, forgiveness, and finding peace after the storm. After hours of reflection, memories, and emotion, Axl Rose finally revealed his complete list. The 10 Guns N' Roses songs that, in his own words, tell the story of my life. It wasn't a list designed to please critics or fans. It wasn't about chart success or legacy. It was personal, raw, honest, and deeply human. When asked if ranking them was difficult, Axl laughed. "It's impossible," he said. "These songs aren't trophies, they're pieces of me. Each one came from a moment I had to survive." Then, one by one, he unveiled the list. Welcome to the Jungle. That's where it all started. It's about walking into a world that wants to eat you alive and refusing to be swallowed. Axl described it as a battle cry for every outsider who's ever been underestimated. "I was scared, angry, hungry, and that song gave me power." Sweet Child O' Mine. Though he's often been shy to discuss it, Axl admitted this one holds a special place. "That was written from real love," he said softly. "It's pure. It's what hope sounds like before the world changes you." November Rain. This one. "It's loss," he said, pausing. "It's about realizing that even when love fades, the beauty of it doesn't disappear. It just turns into something else." Estranged. Axl called this one his soul song. "It's me floating between who I was and who I'm trying to be," he explained. "If you listen close, you can hear loneliness and acceptance fighting each other." Don't cry. That was my way of saying goodbye, not just to a person, but to a version of myself. The song's haunting refrain still moves him. It hurts less now, but it still hits. Civil War. We wrote that thinking about division, not just in politics, but in hearts. Everyone's fighting for something, but sometimes they forget what it's for. Night Rain. That's the sound of brotherhood. Axl smiled. We were broke, drunk, and invincible. It reminds me of the nights when music was all we had. Better. That song's about betrayal, about realizing that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means forgiving, even when it hurts. Patience. Life taught me this one, he said with a half smile. I used to want everything now. Fame, success, love. But real peace comes slow. That's what this song means to me now. There was a time, T-Watt. Axl paused before mentioning the final one. "That's the hardest song I ever wrote," he said quietly. "It's about loss, guilt, and letting go. It's everything I never said to the people I hurt, or the ones who hurt me." When asked if he would change anything about his music today, Axl shook his head. No, every mistake, every scream, every word, it all had to happen. That's what makes it real. He also reflected on the band's legacy. Guns N' Roses was chaos, but beautiful chaos. We didn't care about fitting in. We cared about truth. That's why the songs still connect, because they're not just about me. They're about everyone who's ever felt lost, angry, or broken. As he spoke, it was clear that time had softened the once ferocious frontman. There was still fire in his voice, but it was tempered by wisdom. "I used to think music was about rebellion," he said. "Now I think it's about freedom. The freedom to be honest, even when it hurts." When asked which song he'd want played at the end of his story, Axl thought for a long moment before answering. "Probably Estranged," he said finally. "Because that's me, still searching, still learning, but at peace with the journey." After decades of fame, loss, and redemption, Axl Rose's favorite songs aren't just a playlist. They're a confession. Each track carries a piece of the man behind the myth, from the wild streets of Hollywood to the quiet moments of reflection at 63. And if there's one thing his list proves, it's that even after all the chaos, Axl Rose never stopped being what he was from the beginning. An artist unafraid to bare his soul through the only thing that ever truly saved him: the music.